Welcome everybody. As usual, I'm gonna ask everybody to mute their phones. Mute your phone so we don't have any distractions during the call. I hear a whole lot of audio, so I'm gonna go in and do it manually. But yeah, if you can please mute your phone. Let me give everybody a couple minutes to hop on. And we'll get everything started in a second. 7:35, we'll get everything started. I do want to let everybody know that because I sent this notice out tonight, I didn't want to postpone the meeting, but the housing authority chairman that really wanted to be on the call could not be on tonight because we got a lot of things going on in Houston. So we're gonna have a second call, 9:30 Central Time in the morning on Saturday. But this call is gonna be a great introductory call. We're gonna go over a lot of things. And actually what I want to do is take questions from anybody that has questions tonight. And anything that I cannot answer tonight, I want to make sure that I'm able and have the right people on the phone to answer those calls on Saturday. So this is the first time that we're actually having two planned calls, which really actually makes more sense because every time I do these calls, not everyone is able to hop on. So this is going to be good. So like I said, I'm gonna give everybody like a minute and a half to hop on, and then we'll get started. And I'm gonna give everybody about 90 more seconds, and then we'll get started with the update.
You must not have started.
Chris, you're on mute.
Thank you, Brittany. That was amazing. So this is going to be a two-part conversation, guys. The first part is going to be a general overview tonight. The second part of the conversation that I wanted to have will not happen because the chairman of the Houston Housing Authority had a conflicting schedule tonight. So we're going to have another call at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, where he will come in and talk about how our partnership is going to be very strategic, how what we are doing is creating a new blueprint for what can be done across the country, and how we basically can double our revenue, our profits, and without following the typical real estate investment model in our communities, where we have to make our tenants, well, most investors have to make tenants the catalyst for our success or our failure. But we're creating a new model now, which is bigger than what I even thought when we did this crowdfund. But we're creating a new model now where we partner with the city government, and the city government becomes our partners. And we can still create the same benefit that all of us initially got involved in this project for, to make it successful. So I'm still getting emails. One more minute and we're going to get started. One more minute. All right, let's get started. So I appreciate everybody that's on the call. As everyone knows, our mission is different from most real estate investor initiatives. We are not only focused on making money, we're focused on rebuilding communities, creating the blueprint for what can be done. And when we started this process, a lot of people just believed in what I was saying just off of words. But now, especially if you're in Houston, you can drive by and see the difference between words and vision, because there's over $3 billion worth of development going on within less than a mile of where this project is. But also with that, there are also ebbs and flows in real estate that when I started talking about buying a block, I said, this is a way for people to invest and learn that nothing comes easily and nothing
What's up, bro?
doesn't have ebbs and flows. So we are
Okay, well, they probably going I think it's gonna be recorded and you'll be able to watch it later. Yeah. Okay. All right.
so I need everybody mute their phones. I apologize. If you join the call, just please mute your phone so we can or your computer to make sure everybody doesn't have any interrupted any interrupted experiences here. Hold on, wait. So guys, what I am about to do now is I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through the user presentation. Some of y'all have seen this before, certain parts of it, but I just want to remind everybody the importance of what we're doing. Let's see here. And I just switched over to a Mac, guys, so I'm trying to make sure that I do this the right way. Okay, Zoom, share screen. One participant share. Okay, let's see, share. All right, so slideshow. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Just making sure. Yes, no, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thanks, Brittany. So guys, Brittany is my assistant. She's everybody's assistant actually, because she's working for all of us. So I'm going to go through the presentation just to remind you all of the background and where we are right now with the project. Okay, so the whole focus from the initiation of this was addressing the issue of gentrification, and we all have a good understanding of what that is. But the basis of it is when any part of a community gets redeveloped by outside people, usually they don't focus on the existing residents. They want to bring in a higher social class because they want to make money. It's a capitalistic endeavor. But what we have been focused on is not necessarily stopping them, but figuring out how we can control everything else around it. So we are the advocates, especially with this project, for the people that have already been existing in the neighborhood. So, of course, our mission is to balance, not deter that other group from coming into the community, especially if we notice that they look like us or they're amenable to being in the community with us. But at the same time, making sure that that demographic that comes in understands that we aren't going anywhere, we own enough, and we have a controlling stake in the community. So as y'all know, most of you have seen this slide before, 2016, this is where we started. This is the property we bought when we did the crowdfund. This is some of the recognition we got in the Houston Chronicle. We have several articles written up about our projects. But this is where we are now. So this was the slide from a presentation from last summer, where this was still no new construction, but everything that's highlighted is where big projects were coming. And this was the proposed renditions of what was coming. And this, from the last presentation, shows what it was started in July of 2022. This is what's there now. And the green circle shows where our property is. So the first phase of a $2.4 billion development is almost done. This picture is actually from December. So by the time the summer comes about, this is going to be completely done. So we're going to be in the shadows of the first phase of a $2.4 billion development. That's first phase is going to, this phase cost about $700 million. And we're right in the shadows of it. A lot of people remember this story. When we bought the property, it was owner financed from a family that was African-American. And when I told them a story about what we were doing and why we were buying the property, they agreed to do something that was unprecedented, to owner finance it to us. They gave me time to do the crowdfund for all of us, to pool our capital to be able to buy it. And then less than a year later, the husband of that couple passed away. So that's why we renamed the property after him. Now it's called Stevens Court. Renovations started this year, finally, guys. I know I've talked about that for a long time. We thought it was going to be a coffee shop. We thought it was going to be several different things. But our total investment is just over $1 million. And risking $100,000 or more on one building that I did not know would or would not produce a strong revenue stream was something that I was very hesitant about. But now that the economy has completely rebounded, we're in a place now where I feel comfortable doing it. So we did start the renovations on it in 2023. And why that's important is because the dividends, the distributions that everybody gets is 100% tied to the profit margins of the investment. So one bad decision from a real estate investment perspective on a property that's worth a little over $1 million could negate the returns of everybody invested and involved in the project. But here's what I also want to show you. That same building, that one building. So remember, guys, we bought this entire block for $1.25 million. The same property that we're just starting to renovate now is now worth $460,000 by itself. So that shows that the value appreciation and everything that we all, or that I talk to everyone about and everyone bought into is accurate. So the last appraisal that was done for this property was about 16 months ago, and the entire block appraised for 1.7 million. And if anybody has access to our Dropbox link, you can go and look at that Dropbox link, and it shows all 20 properties, including the 2 commercial buildings and 18 houses. The appraisal value is like a little over 1.7 million. But now everyone can see what's coming to fruition. A single building that we have not even completed or put any tenant in yet is now worth $460,000. So conservatively, we can say that our investment that we bought for 1.2 is worth over 2 million. I will get another appraisal done sometime this summer, but I want to wait till we start generating revenue from this building before I do that. Why is that important? That's important because when everyone asks about what their share value is, okay, everyone's share value is not tied to some fictitious estimate that I make up. It's tied to commercial appraisals. This appraisal for this building alone cost over $3,000. This is not like a regular residential real estate appraisal, right? A lot of us in our community are very familiar with flipping houses and all that. But when it comes to commercial real estate, it costs a whole lot more money to play in the game. So I did this specifically to let everyone know that's invested that we have some slight frustrations going on with the platforms we're using that are supposed to be communicating with all the investors and letting everyone know what your share valuation is and a bunch of other things. But in the bigger picture, those are small things because everyone that has played a part in this project is actually invested in real, tangible real estate. And because our service providers have not stood up to where they should be, I don't want anybody to feel like what they've invested in has not produced the results that we all were in this project for. Here's a further another opportunity for you to see what's going on. So our project is right here, guys, right here inside this red circle. When we started, there were no $500,000 listings. There were no properties that were valued at over $200,000. Now we own an entire block that's this close to one listing for one property that's listed for $500,000. If you guys, if you look south closer to the East River development, if you guys remember the last presentation, I was showing you listings that were 300, 320. There's one for 320. Everything else is close to $500,000 now. So we are in the right market at the right time. And I appreciate everybody's patience because my frustration has been this year is that some of our revenue has gone down because of the economy. However, our value appreciation has gone up tremendously. And so this is another important factor that you have to understand about investing in real estate. And this is why I'm glad so many people can learn these lessons by being a part of this project. There's a few ways you make money with real estate. Number one is what everybody thinks of. It's revenue over operating expenses. That's net profit every month. However, the other most important way you make money with real estate is value appreciation. However, value appreciation with real estate is not like the value of a stock going up. When a stock goes up, if you want to sell it tomorrow, you can. You can't do that with real estate. You know, it takes time to say, okay, I'm willing to list this property, sell this property, pay taxes on the sale of it, and negate all of the potential cash flow that I could have had from this property. But what we're doing is something different. We're not only focused on those two aspects, we're also focused on social impact and what we're doing for the community. So that's what makes us special. That's what makes us different. And like I said, we bought a property for $1.25 million that once this next appraisal comes back, I'm sure it's going to be worth over $2.2 million. And it's really hard. Well, let me say this. My legal team wouldn't want me talking to y'all like this, but I'm being 100% honest because they want me to be super conservative. But I know for a fact, if that one building I just showed y'all appraised for $460,000, and when we bought this entire block, that one building was worth only $200,000. I know the appraisal is going to come back over 2.2. And anybody that has access to our Dropbox folder can go back and look at the appraisal from over a year ago before construction started on the $2 billion project, and the appraisal came back at like 1.7. So I know actually it's our legal team. I'm here from them tomorrow. They're gonna tell me, Chris, I'm talking too much. But I want y'all to understand that we have a lot of strategic relationships that are coming to the table now that we didn't have before. I'm also going to tell you bluntly that every other time that we've had these calls, I could give you a rosy picture and say, oh, we made all of this money off of rent. None of our tenants missed their rent, even during COVID. That has not been the case for the past 8 months. We've had some tenants that did not pay. We got a tenant we had to evict. We had a tenant that actually passed away. But actually, we had 2 tenants that passed away. But those are actually 2 positive stories. One of the tenants didn't pay their rent for 3 months, and I gave him a grace period. And then the family called me on the 4th month and said he actually passed away of cancer. The other tenant, who was the longest term tenant we had on the property, she had been there for 32 years. And she was in her late 70s. She just passed away of natural causes. But because of what we chose to do with this property and have a social impact project versus just focusing on revenue, you know, we allowed her to transition in the last year of her life in the way that she would have wanted to. Can you imagine if your grandmother had lived somewhere for 31 years and you found out, or you knew afterwards she was going to pass away in the last year? And because an investor bought the property and raised the rent, she could no longer afford it, and she was displaced, and her whole life was upset for that last year. That's the difference that we have been able to make. So here's the light at the end of the tunnel, though. And here's why we're going to have a second part to this conversation. Because on Saturday morning, the chairman of the Houston Housing Authority has acknowledged what we've been doing. And he's basically told me that we can double the rent revenue for every unit we have through them, because they have a program that's called a project-based voucher program. So instead of raising the rent on the tenants, the Houston Housing Authority will acknowledge the fact that we are keeping things affordable for the community, and they will match the difference. So let me go to these slides. I want y'all to see these, how these numbers are going to differ. So Fifth Ward is still in Tier D. And let me give you a caveat. Tier D are the low-income communities. But what that means to me is, once East River is finished, once this $2.4 billion development is finished, it's no longer going to be in Tier D. It's probably going to be in Tier B. But even today, the rents that we're charging our residents for a 1-bedroom is $600 a month. The Housing Authority is basically saying, with the project-based voucher program, this is how much they will allocate for us every month. $1,180. For the 2 bedrooms, well, we're charging our tenants $750. They will allocate over $1,400 a month. So what does that mean? We had a temporary setback in revenue for probably 8 months out of this year. But because we did that with integrity, come the end of 2023, early 2024, our revenue will double from every single unit. And our impact won't change, because that's not going to affect our tenants at all. The Housing Authority is going to step in and help us continue to subsidize these rents for these residents. So how does that affect everybody directly? The first year and a half, almost 2 years we were in this investment, everybody was paying their rent, and the distributions that everybody got were a direct result of everybody paying their rent. Well, now we've had almost 8 months of a break even where the distributable revenue has been a lot lower because we were staying true to our mission. So I understand that some people may look at that and say, oh, my returns went down. But what I really want everybody to ask themselves in this moment is, if your money would have been in the stock market with the way the rest of the economy's tanked, would you have lost more money? Because your share value is still there. Your distributions may have gone down for 6 or 8 months. But imagine if you had all your money tied in the stock market where everything lost 30, 40, 50%. And we're on like a social-based impact mission. And we have a clear-cut avenue to where we're going to get back to success. My lawyer's going to tell me, Chris, don't sell anybody on anything, because I can't do that. I can't sell y'all on anything. Anybody that wants to cash out of the investment early, cash out of the project early, I understand it is a tough economy right now. 100%. But if anybody goes back to my original messages about this project, it was all about the mission and what we were doing to impact the community. And a lot of my posts were like, don't invest your bill money, don't invest anything else. And I was hoping that I would never have to go back to those conversations and remind everybody of them, because I thought everything was going to be rosy. Unfortunately, it's not. It's the real world. It's capitalism. It's the real world economy. There's cycles to everything. And so this is where we are now. Anyway, outside of that, although revenue has gone down because of that $2.4 billion project, our value on our investment has still gone up over $300,000. The last presentation, the valuation was like at 1.8. Well, conservatively, just because of that one appraisal that I showed you guys at the beginning of the presentation, so that value has still gone up over $300,000. And once we get a full appraisal done of everything, I expect it to come back at least 2.2 million. But then again, there's a difference. For some of y'all that invested for the long term, that want to stay in to see value appreciation and hold your shares, that's different from the ones that invested because they thought this was a good social impact mission that they could still get distributions from consistently. So there's a small hiccup in the consistency right now, but I just showed everyone my solution for the hiccup in the consistency. And by the way, guys, I'm streaming this live on Instagram when I don't have to people that aren't investors. And you all know every time I do one of these presentations, I post it on YouTube. So there's absolutely nothing for me to hide. I don't have a problem talking about the failures or talking about the shortcomings, because that's the whole reason why I put this project together. And I'm hoping that everybody can see that investing in anything is not going to be 100% consistent or profitable at all times. Okay, so let's walk through some of this. These are things that I have talked about. We are real estate investors. Although a lot of these platforms have been created to help us, the majority of the communication I get from everybody is about the platforms not having the capacity to do what we need them to do, which is why I personally decided to bring in a SEC attorney team that specializes only in crowdfunding investing, only in accredited investor projects, to help me regulate and control what's going on. Probably 90% of the people that have invested started out with me when we were on the Buy the Block platform. And I chose to buy the Black platform because it was Black owned. It was the only Black female owned platform in the country that could handle a crowd fundraise for a project like this. Unfortunately, as with all businesses, you know, a lot of businesses have shortcomings, they have failures, and some things don't work out. And so that's why we got off of that platform. And then I went to a few other platforms, and none of them really had the capacity to have the level of communication that we needed. If you guys study most crowd funds and Google most crowd funds right now, they're more like venture capital funds where people put in money and the company isn't going to make money for 3 or 4 or 5 years. There's not going to be a value appreciation. There's not going to be immediate revenue tied to the business because they're still building the business. We are one of the first ones where we bought an asset in a neighborhood that already had cash flow, where everybody could participate in value appreciation and revenue share. So it's been really hard for me to balance mitigating everybody's frustration and me mitigating my own frustration with these platforms that haven't been able to, you know, handle our success is basically what it is. If y'all Google regulation CF crowd funds in the United States that raised over $1 million and were able to pay distributions in the first year, it'll answer your question. It'll answer your frustration. There's hardly none. I think we're one of 3, maybe 3, and we're definitely the only Black one. And we're definitely the only one that did something in our community with impact. So I try my best to mitigate everybody's frustration, but what I don't want to do is overburden our initiative with operations overhead, because the profit margins on a $1.2 million investment, 30% is amazing. That's $300,000. But if I have to hire a full team for communication, for shareholder management, for accounting, for all these things, that literally depletes all of the profits that should be going out to the shareholders. So that's been what I've been trying to manage the most, is how do we keep both of those in line? Because this is a social impact project. This isn't a top line profit driven project. However, so what we have done, and after Buy the Block shut down, I made sure that, okay, let me pay these attorneys, this legal team that are SEC specialists, Securities and Exchange Commission specialists, to issue shareholder certificates to every single investor. And all you have to do is go and fill out that form and you will get your shareholder certificate. So it doesn't matter what any online platform says. It doesn't matter if they aren't reflecting the right amount of shares you have. You have a document from the legal staff of our project that says this is what you own. So I just want everybody to understand that too and comprehend that. Guys, as I'm going through this, I'm realizing this is nowhere near as rosy as the previous presentations, but it's the reality of real estate investing. This is the type of environment in real estate investing that I started in, because I started in 2008 when everybody was scared of real estate investing. But imagine everything I'm saying can be a little uncomfortable, but we still have almost doubled the value of what, yeah, we're very close to doubling the value of what we invested in collectively. So I just want everybody to keep all of these things in perspective. Property tax assessments, appraised value. I'm going to talk about that more on Saturday, because I want the chairman of the housing authority to address all the positives of what we're doing and why the entire city, from the mayor on down, talks about what we've done all the time. There's no conversation that I have not gotten into in politically. And remind you, we always compete with Chicago. This is the number 2 or 3 largest US city. But everybody at the top, all the decision makers love what we're doing. So there will be more conversation about that on Saturday morning. I wish he could have made it tonight, but he had to be out of town. And so next, this is what everybody is really wanting to know. What's my share value? Where are my distributions? So if you have not taken any distributions yet, understand everything has been accrued. It's accumulating. Platform changes, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to another platform yet because none of them have performed the way we need them to perform. And this web-based focus and this belief, the belief that a single platform can tell you exactly where your investment is. I would hope that a lot of y'all that have watched what happened with crypto and all these other industries would realize it doesn't really mean anything. It's just something that somebody else tells you your investment is worth. However, the oldest form of investing in the world is real estate. And we've invested in real estate next to downtown of the 3rd largest US city, where you all can see over $3 billion worth of active development going on, and we own it. And everybody that's a part of this is making money. Whether an internet website can tell you you're making money or not, you got legally binding documents and communications from us saying we're making money. And so sometimes I get frustrated because these platforms have not kept up with us. This was like a very personal conversation. Okay, some platforms that could keep up would charge us so much money that it wouldn't make sense. They were like, yeah, Chris, we can do everything you want. It's gonna cost you 100 grand a year. I'm like, that's the profit that I give out to the investors. Why would I give that up just so you can report to them what their share value is worth? They want distributions. They want everything else. So guys, understand, I'm learning as we are all learning, but we are still very profitable. We're still profitable right now. Okay, let me get past this Core Connect stuff. So this is the old explanation of what everybody's share value was. It has gone up a little bit since then. Once I get this new appraisal, which will probably be in March or April, I will add another column that shows what share value is. And since the last call, guys, since last summer in July, I did have over $100,000 worth of people that had shares decide to sell their shares. And then I had 120,000 worth of investors that wanted to buy more shares. So some people are in it for the short term, some people are in it for the long term. I understand both sides. Everybody contributed to us starting this mission and getting it to where it is now. However, since I am the sponsor for the crowdfund, I can't really talk to the people that sold, and And I can't tell them they should have held out, because the value appreciation really hasn't come to where it's supposed to be yet. The first phase of that $2.4 billion project is still under construction. Once the third phase is done and the golf course hasn't been open for years, I predict our value will be a lot higher than where it is. Once again, I know my attorneys are going to tell me not to say what I think it's going to be. But if anybody knows Houston, knows these same developers built City Center on the west side of Houston, which is half of this size. The poor neighborhood across the street, across I-10, is Spring Branch. It was a very poor Hispanic neighborhood. Now you can't buy a 5,000 square foot lot for less than $250,000 over there. It's $1 million homes all over Spring Branch now. The same developers, these private developers that didn't use a single public dollar, are 0.7 miles away from us, and they are building a project twice the size on Buffalo Bayou with a golf course right next to downtown. So without me making my attorneys upset, you guys can understand like how much different the value appreciation will be for what we own if we continue to stay in it long term. But like I said, not everybody that invested in this was prepared for the long term. And I can't disregard anybody's decision of what they're doing, because everybody brought us value. Some of y'all doubled down on your investment, but it was only because some of the other people that sold, gave you the opportunity to buy more shares, because I can't exceed the initial number of shares that we issued for the project. Okay. So same thing. So this year, anybody that does want to exit, you still will have the opportunity this summer. In July, once a year, we do allow the transactions of shares to be bought or sold. And the reason why we don't do it once a year is because it's a very expensive process. That was another business service that I didn't realize was so expensive. And most of the providers that facilitate this, which is basically creating a secondary market, they charge $50,000 per year just to facilitate who buys and who sells. But thankfully, our legal team is willing to do it for a lot less expense. And so that's why we do it once a year. If we were to do it throughout the year, like I said, it would greatly diminish the project's overall profitability. And yeah, so we'll send DocuSign forms will be sent out probably April, May, and up until July. When anybody decides they want to sell, we'll make sure that opportunity is available, because we don't want anybody to feel like they're beholden to the project. Okay, so that's all I got for tonight. Saturday morning, guys, is going to be really good. I have been very selective about what I say today, but there will be a lot more positive conversation on Saturday morning. But what I wanted to always make sure I do is, like, as much as I've been super positive, I want to make sure I'm transparent and super honest on a year like this where things didn't go as well, but we still have a strong path to the goal that we all came into this project for. So with that, I'm gonna open up the floodgates for questions and everything.
So I was kind of monitoring the chat, and I know some people sent some questions in the chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask them all. So someone was asking, how is the voucher-based program different from Section 8?
Great question. That is the best question of all. So throughout the country, there is a Section 8 coupon program where anybody can go and apply in any city and get a Section 8 voucher. And they can take that voucher to any landlord they want, and they can ask that landlord, do you take Section 8? If you take Section 8, then they can live there. However, if they decide to terminate their lease, go anywhere else, when that tenant leaves, they take that Section 8 voucher with them. The project-based voucher program is completely different. It's a partnership with the landlord. So it says, hey, Blockvestors, we like what y'all are doing. We're gonna give you a dedicated revenue stream every month for every single door you have. Whether you have a tenant there or not, you're gonna get this project-based voucher. When that tenant leaves, that tenant cannot take that coupon with them. That is for you, because we respect what you're doing. So that's guaranteed revenue for us. And a lot of our residents right now have never been on Section 8. We have two sisters that probably heard me talk about before. They've been living next door to each other for over 20 years. One of them works at Kroger's, one of them works at Walmart. Neither one of them has ever tried to get Section 8. I see them every morning going to the bus stop, hopping on the bus to go to work. But guess what? Now the housing authority is saying, well, Chris, because y'all supported them and did not raise their rent, we're going to subsidize their rent. That's a big difference.
Thank you.
When a tenant passes or someone moves out, do you keep the rate the same or do you mark it up to market value?
I have not marked anything up to market value, but for instance, when the lady that had been living there for 32 years passed away, she wouldn't even let us into her unit when we bought the property to do maintenance and upgrades. So yes, we did have to go in and do some things to the property. So her rent was $675. I increased the rent to $750, and we did, minimal required upgrades like plumbing, like anything that would cause us a big maintenance expense in the future. If another tenant moved in and it wasn't taken care of, that's the only things we worked on. But no, I did not over renovate the units because I knew I wanted to keep everything affordable. Now that we have this project-based voucher program, guys, let me put it in numbers. Our monthly rental revenue is probably going to go from 11,500 to probably about 21,000 a month, easily. So now we do have a little bit more money to upgrade the units a little bit more. But my biggest focus was keeping it affordable for the community and not over investing, because that category of money is called capital expenses. But if you cannot justify how you're going to get the return on that CapEx, then all you're doing is depreciating your own rental revenue, depleting your own rental revenue. That's a better word. So, but now that we know that we're going to get a lot more revenue, it makes more sense that we can go in and do more renovations on the units.
Vanda was asking, do you have any of these in an opportunity fund?
Okay, so this is an opportunity zone, but the way opportunity zones work, they want to make big investments in projects that are going to have a big renovation budget, and they're going to have a really long project timeline to get returns. So what I've done, as an offset to that, guys, if you follow me on social media, I do have an opportunity zone project that's literally right across the freeway. It's 2 blocks away, but it was much bigger investments. Like all of our investments are like doctors, dentists, other real estate investors like Julian Gordon, who put in $500,000. So that project is an opportunity zone fund. It's going to bolster the neighborhood because that's what we're bringing in, that top performing Black charter school that was in the previous update. And it's going to be a direct benefit to us for this smaller project because it's going to change the demographic of the community tremendously and change the demand in the area because we're bringing the top performing Black charter school system in the country to the site. And our investor in that's the Opportunity Zone Fund is Wood Forest Bank, which is the bank that's in 17 Walmarts across the country. So yeah, so indirectly, we are benefiting from Opportunity Zone funds. This project specifically is not an Opportunity Zone fund because that would require a lot of us giving up our ownership interest in it for that fund to put the money in.
Ms. Johnson said that she received her distributions and reinvested them, but she doesn't see them in Core Connects.
Yes, that's what I was talking about earlier.
So,
guys, I promise I'm working so hard to get these platforms to catch up with us. I really believe it comes down to business expenses. Like it costs them so much on the back end to build out what we need that none of them have really wanted to do it. But just I want everybody to understand we have Securities and Exchange licensed attorneys issuing shareholder certificates to everybody. And if you have not gotten those, please send me an email so that they can send them to you. What's much more important than any platform showing anything in a login account is what the attorneys for your investment are telling you have invested in. And I'm issuing communications telling you what your returns are. So yes, Core Connects has not performed as we needed them to. None of them have, actually. Everybody that's been here with us from the beginning knows that none of them have. So that's why going back to understand that we got to back everything up, because just like Buy the Block went away that everybody started off with in this fund, if Core Connects goes away, because they're a startup company too, I don't want to hit reset again. I want us to have our own backup private database of everything so everybody knows where their investment really is.
there's a few people asking what email address would have this certificates.
Okay. If you haven't done it yet, I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm gonna give everybody, I'm just gonna type it. I'm gonna put my email and Brittany's in the chat, which I think a lot of y'all have mine. Let's see. But just email both of us and then we'll reply and well, actually, let me go ahead and add the support for Polymath Legal. I think everybody should have gotten an email from Polymath Legal. You probably didn't know who it was, but they are our attorney firm. It doesn't matter. Just go ahead and email us and we'll take care of it tomorrow.
Okay, a lot of the questions were from pertaining that, but someone was asking if we could do quarterly updates because they would like to invest more, but are kind of hesitant because they're not kept up to date, if that's an option.
Yes. We can do quarterly updates. So guys, and I want to reiterate this one more time. A lot of people knew me for what I was doing before, but this crowdfund, even though we raised $1 million, it sounds like a lot of money. The profitability is not that high. So if I overburden the project with a whole bunch of staff, that directly impacts everybody's profitability. So that's been my challenge. I've been trying to manage it as much as I could on my own. But now I have Brittany on the team, and she's like managing multiple things to help out with that. So we will try to do better with the communication. Quarterly updates are probably possible now that things are slowing down. We are past the construction stage. It's more just cash flow and property management. Yes, consistent quarterly updates are more feasible now. Had this been a $50 million, $100 million project, it would be a whole lot easier. But I just want everybody to make money. I don't want to be categorized like the other folks that everybody knows about that did crowdfunds, you know. I want everybody to make money at the same time. So it's just, it's a delicate balance,
So by the end of July, when investors sell their shares, can current investors and new people buy shares or no?
So the preferential sales are always gonna go to existing investors. Last year we did have a few investors that were able to buy in, but the majority of them are gonna go to existing investors for sure. And it's really just gonna be based off the new valuation for each share, and you know how many shares they want to buy.
Okay, that was the questions that I had during your presentation. I'm just reading the questions that were recently sent in, but I mean, they're the next two questions that are in the chat, if you wanted to open that up.
You want me to open the chat?
Yeah, so it says, will there be an update call related to the Buy the Block 2 initiative? Is one of the questions.
Okay, yes. So if you're on this call and you invested in Buy the Block 2, understand that was completely different. That was not an equity investment in a risky crowd fund. That was people investing in a secondary fund to supplement all the activity that was going on in Fifth Ward. And so everybody that's in Buy the Block 2, you were getting quarterly distributions, whether you receive them or not. They have accrued. There's only April and July. After that, that one will be over. So everybody that's invested, you will get fully paid out by then. There were several projects that some of those funds were used for. There's one that's a project in Third Ward that we're selling right now. So a lot of it was invested to support the bigger project that we bought for 5.5 million. We recently got a valuation of 11.5 million, but it's still the same initiative. We protected an entire block from being bought by outside developers to be allocated for the Houston Housing Authority to do an affordable housing complex on, and we're bringing the top performing charter school system in the country to that site. Okay, so once we sell that, everybody from the BTB2 will get their full distributions out of that as well. I know when I started, I thought that it would be more like us supporting wholesalers, flipping houses and all that kind of stuff. But then I realized it made more sense to concentrate those dollars on something that benefited both of the Buy the Block projects and something that was more secure versus loaning money to people that we didn't know if they were really going to perform or execute what they thought they were going to, what they proposed they were going to do. So yes, if you're in Buy the Block 2, these updates really touch both sides because they're really for everybody.
Is the Opportunity Fund still open for investors even though they are different projects?
No, the current Opportunity Zone Fund is closed. That project is at the stage right now where we're either gonna start construction privately or we're gonna sell it to the housing authority and then partner back with them as a development partner to continue that project. But yeah, we're not taking any more investors for that. That was a very small group of accredited investors that we put together for that.
And then there's one more question. I guess it's more of a statement, but if platforms aren't performing how we need them to, can that be expressed sooner next time?
I think every email and every update I've said, there's always a caveat at the bottom that says that. However, here's the reality, and here's what we're working on. The SEC attorneys that everybody's getting shareholder certificates from, myself, and another prominent young Black developer, most of y'all know, Brandon Rule, are all working on creating our own entity, our own platform, so that we are not dependent on anybody else to communicate to our shareholders. So that's coming up next. That it might not come to fruition until 2024, but there's an extreme void in the market for that, especially for our community. So that's what we're working on right now.
Is there anything else on the horizon for accredited investors?
Nothing that I can announce yet. I'm still underwriting a lot of things. I have limited bandwidth, and the worst thing that someone in my position can do is to take on too many projects at once, because then everybody that's invested with me and believed in me from the first project, if they see, oh, he's taking on 4 or 5 projects and something goes wrong, then that's all on me. That's my responsibility. So my focus right now is keeping the first project completely on track, and then the larger multifamily with the charter school on track, paying all the BTB2 investors back, getting ready to pay all the original buy the block investors back. Then I'll start looking at other stuff. So not immediately, but if the right opportunity presents itself and I can build the right team around me that can manage it, then yes, I will say, okay, this is an opportunity for us to raise more capital collectively to do more things. But I have no interest in overwhelming myself with projects just to raise money, just to brag about raising money, because I want everybody to be profitable. That's much more important.
Can you provide the platform where our shares are? Sorry, I got lost. Can you provide the platform where our shares information is currently being housed?
Yes. So the current platform is Core Connects, but it's spelled funny. It is KORECONX. Now, anybody that bought more shares recently, they have not updated that information. That's why I had the legal team send out shareholder certificates. So I'm going to go back to Core Connects and try to get them to get everything updated. But I want everyone to understand that what you get from the Securities and Exchange attorneys is a lot more important than what a third-party platform shows on a login when you get on the website.
That is all the questions in the chat, unless somebody sends something in right now.
Okay. Well, guys, I want everyone to know this. We're gonna have another call Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. I'm gonna send out the next Zoom for that. We're gonna have the chairman of the 3rd largest housing authority in the country on the call to talk with us. And I want y'all to see where we're going from where we started. We have a strong trajectory to do a lot bigger things, a lot bigger projects, and probably whoever just asked about the accredited investor opportunities, we'll have a lot more opportunities for that too coming up because of what we've done with this project. So, and I'm gonna get more details with the numbers, because what I didn't do I know there's some accountants on the phone and some CPAs on the phone. We didn't dive deep into the revenue numbers from the last year. I'm gonna do that on Saturday morning as well.
Okay, last question. It says the shareholder certificates that the legal team sent is only for what was purchased during the distribution phase.
No, it should be for everything. When you fill out that form, it asks you how many you owned previously and how many you're purchasing. If you didn't fill it out correctly, let me know. We'll resend the form to you and we'll confirm payments, and then we can update that to make sure it's the right amount of shares.
Okay, sorry, we're more questions. So where do they fill out the form?
I'll put the email in the chat. It's really been tied to a lot of the communications. If you haven't gotten any of the communications, please let me know. But we've sent it out several times. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do also. I'm gonna put this in the chat. Houston, and I'm on Instagram Live. Everybody gonna be nosy, y'all. Everybody didn't invest will be able to see all of this. Houston Blockvestor updates.com. Okay, anybody, just go there. I'm gonna add the link, and that's our Dropbox folder, just a URL for our Dropbox folder. But you can go in there and update your information. And if you have not gotten your shareholder certificates updated, please submit that for the form. And we're gonna verify payment, and then we're gonna send you shareholder certificates.
And then to clarify, this meeting will be posted on your YouTube and Saturday's meeting will be emailed, the Zoom link. Is that
Yes,
correct? Okay.
correct. As every single meeting has been, public information. No secrets here. The good, the bad, and the ugly has to be public information according to what the federal government says. All right, well, I think we're good for tonight. I will see everybody Saturday morning and hopefully have a bigger audience. It's crazy. We have over 1,500 people that invested. And I think we had 100 people on tonight. That's crazy. But yeah, I'll see everybody Saturday morning.